Whew, we finally made it back onto the air. It seems like it's been an incredibly busy amount of time, but it's only been a few days.
Yeah, we do a lot here at Thrasher.
You've booked bands since then. You've booked shows since the last time we talked.
Yeah, this is a busy time of year for programming. Currently booking June through December of 2022. And it's an interest that for me personally, this is my first time booking a whole season from scratch. Right when I took over, the pandemic hit. And so there were a lot of reschedules, and I booked some new things here and there. But finally, for the first time, I'll book them all.
That's quite an undertaking.
Well, fortunately, it's not just me all alone on an island. My coworkers and the board of directors, it is quite the team when it comes to programming. But there's a lot of research that goes into it. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, look at a lot of social media numbers and what people are doing. And
that's great. That supportive structure and the time that gets spent behind the scenes doing that sort of homework.
The organization takes a lot of care in the acts that we select.
And it shows in the consistently high quality.
Well, thanks.
Speaking of acts coming up, Pokey Lafarge.
Yeah, he's a first time for the Thrasher, having Pokey Lafarge. Yeah, we like to bring new artists in to just expose them to this area. I think I've said it before, but one of my favorite parts of this job is discovering new artists. And Pokey's definitely one of them. I didn't know who he was or what his music was like until I started looking through rosters, and his agent brought his name up to me. And as soon as I started watching his videos, I was like, oh yeah, that's going to sound really good at Thrasher.
The instrumentation will be simple. It will be drums and a bass and Pokey with guitar and vocals.
Upright bass, though.
Upright bass, I think.
I had to
yes.
clarify that with you because an upright bass is pretty cool to look at up on stage.
It is. And it makes an entirely different vibe for the show.
Yeah.
Right. I think it'll be good. He seems to have a very a stripped down and you could say traditionalist ethic. It's modern, but the instrumentation and the sound is retro.
That is how I would describe him too. I was going to say vintage, but I like retro better maybe.
Sure. It's a place where if we had lots of ribbon mics to throw on the stage, we could use them.
What is a ribbon mic?
Oh, it's a microphone that uses a thin, stretched piece of aluminum to make the sound, and it moves back and forth between the magnet poles.
And is that like a more vintage sounding?
Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha. See, this is why you're the tech wizard. You know all these things.
Right. The ribbon is the sound of the 40s.
Yeah, he has that sort of 40s vibe in a lot of his songs. Listening to his latest album, In the Blossom of Your Shade, it is a very vintage sounding group of songs. And then when you listen to the one prior to that, there's a little bit more rock and roll to it, a rock and roll element to that one. I've been listening to it a lot, actually. Hi, folks. I'm excited to be sitting down with upcoming artist Pokey Lafarge, who will be at the Thrasher on February 18th. Hey, Pokey, how you doing?
Hi, good day, everyone. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
We're excited because this will be your first time at Thrasher. So we'll get to find out what a Pokey Lafarge show is all about. I can't wait.
Let's go.
So before we dive into the show, I do want to talk a little bit about what happened in your world over the past 2 years, because it seems like you were really productive creativity-wise, launched right into writing some songs, and that turned into a whole album. So I'm curious, what's it like? What goes into creating an album just normally, but during a pandemic? You know, I'm sure there were some hurdles to go over. Do you still go to a studio and record, or did you have to find creative ways to do that?
Well, from what I remember, it didn't change a lot. made the record with the same guys I made Rock Bottom Rhapsody with and Something on the Water with. So naturally, there's already a lot of trust there, not only musically, but from a personal standpoint as well. So, though it did change how many people we had in the studio at one time, the engineer wanted to keep that to a minimum, which actually coincided with how I wanted to record the record anyway.
Okay.
The engineer was also the drummer. So it was just me on guitars, bass, and drums. We did the whole record, at least the foundation of the record, live. So really, there was only just us three in the studio. And then when we did overdubs, which were very minimal, we had then just one extra person in the studio at a time. So, and the bass was already done. So really, there was only 2, 3, 4 people in the studio at the time. So
Sometimes
in terms
simpler
of
is
like
better.
people feeling comfortable and safety, that was a check. And then it also, of course, coincided with my mentality for recording this record, which was very simple, and recording live, straight to tape, and capturing a performance and a vibe over trying to be picture perfect and analytical through computers and post, which you very rarely get the job done that way anyway. So at least for me, in the way that I work creatively, that was it all kind of worked out. I think a lot of the music that I've listened to my whole life has kind of been with that sort of ethos. So
One thing I really like listening to your music is how you merge a lot of different genres. You can listen to one song and you get sort of this sort of country vibe, and then you listen to another one and it's a little bit more jazzy or poppy almost. It really, your music keeps people on their toes. Is that intentional, or does it just sort of happen during the creative process?
I think it's both. I mean, if we're not creating with intention, then I do think that authenticity is going to suffer. I do think originality is going to suffer. We have to be intentional, hopefully intentional in everything that we do. But I also don't think that I'm totally in control of the things that I'm creating. At least I should say the inception of one idea, or an inception of ideas being lyrics or melody or tempo, or maybe even mood and spirit of a song. I don't think that all totally comes from me. So yeah, and then at the same time, I think that it's really hard to know whether at times if something is coming from me, or if it's coming from God, or if it's coming from something that I heard maybe yesterday or last
Outside
week.
influences.
Because like everything you are as an art, everything you are as a person comes out in your work. Everything you've experienced, everything you've heard and taken in, we're like sponges. It all just gets soaked up in there. You know what I mean? And unless maybe we're actively sort of like exercising that out of us, it just kind of stays there. I feel like the experience of our lives. So yeah, I think that's the exciting part of it, and for me, luckily, I haven't had to work too hard at being prolific. What we have to work hard at being intentional with is harnessing it, meaning like being a part of the process. You can get the ideas, you can download the ideas all you want, but you have to take time to get them out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what the audience can expect from your show on the 18th. This seems to be, you're getting back on the road. I'm sure that's really exciting. And what are you bringing to the stage?
Yeah, I'll have me and guitars and doing all the singing, of course. And then I'll have a new rhythm section with me. I'll be keeping a small little band, little trio, upright bass, Kevin Carducci from Santa Rosa, California, and Andrew Guterman on drums from San Jose, California. And it'll be us three doing songs off the new record, which is called In the Blossom of the Shade. It came out in October of last year. some songs off of Rock Bottom Rhapsody, which came out in April of 2020, and some songs. I mean, I have a lot of records at this point, so I would say be prepared for a little bit from a lot of the records. But if I had to say another record that I play a lot of songs off of, in addition to the two most recent, it would be the Something in the Water record. So those three records primarily, and then maybe a little smattering of some songs off the other records, as well as maybe some old traditionals or some covers, maybe.
Well, and that's the beauty of a live performance is it isn't always perfectly planned for the audience to know what's coming next. And I think as an audience member, that's the enjoyment of it is not knowing every single thing that's coming. Thrasher is a small little intimate venue. We've only got 200 seats, and folks really like that interaction with the musicians. So just so you know, I don't know if you knew that about Thrasher, but it's a small little room. So it should be a great evening.
Yeah, well, for me, acoustic music, certainly benefits from a more intimate venue. So being experienced with, of course, acoustic music and intimate venues, I definitely am prepared to bring those two things together, the music, the intimate venue and intimate audience atmosphere, to make for, the best possible show with all things considered. And certainly may be in the mood to talk and tell some stories and interact with the audience as well, not just play and sing.
Oh, sure. Folks are excited about it. The tickets have been going. And one of the reasons might be because there's only 3 shows in your Midwest tour. We're one of 3 stops that you're making, and the only stop in Wisconsin. So we feel very honored to be one of those 3 stops. And for folks looking for a ticket, you can get it at thrasheroperahouse.com or call 920-294-4279 and we'll get you a seat. Pokey, is there anything else you want to share before we take a break?
Well, I guess with all the things that have been keeping us all from either seeing shows or performing shows, God willing, we're able to meet and gather at the Thrasher Opera House on February 18th. And I know that if we do, that it'll certainly not be without a great, decent amount of gratitude just for having the opportunity to play. It seems like every performance now is like a gift, more so than it ever was, So, again, God willing, it happens, and if it does, we'll play our hearts out.
Amazing. Well, we're looking forward to it. Thanks again for taking the time to talk with me today, and we'll see you on the 18th.
Thanks for doing this. This is a cool thing for a venue to do. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thanks. I have to give a shout out to our sponsors.
You do?
Yeah, the Heidel House has been supporting all of the rooms for all of our artists, which we're super thankful for. And just so folks out there know, the Heidel House is reopened and it's a great place to stay, to come see a show. You can go out to eat there beforehand, have a drink at their bar afterwards. So yeah, thank you, Heidel House.
Their support is really important.
Yeah, the collaboration is great.
And having a nice room in a nice hotel adds to the attractiveness for the artist.
I'm sure they're thankful for it. They're on the road, sometimes for months.
Right.
So having a nice, beautiful spot on the lake can't be that bad.
That's right.
And I also want to give a shout out to you, Thin Ice Productions, for producing this podcast.
Well, we stumble along and do what we can.
It's been really fun. I mean, at least for me, I don't have to do the hard part, but figuring out what we're going to do with this and where it's going to go and how some of this tech works has been a really exciting thing. So thank you.
Well, Rachel, it's been great again.
Once again.
And next week is Dervish.
Yeah, we'll get to talk with Kathy from Dervish next week. So from Ireland.
It'll be great. See you soon.
That's it, eh?